trophies with Ward Burton as the driver to run for the Max Race Cars Rookie of the Year honors. Of course, they're running the Busch Series this year. Their first Winston Cup race will be the Daytona 500 by STP in February. Well, the NASCAR action was at the Bristol International Speedway this weekend. The Busch cars were there on Friday night, and the Winston Cup cars there last night for the Bud 500. Let's catch up with all that went on there with Bill Weber, who is live in our studios here in Charlotte.
Thanks, Ned, and good morning, everybody. You in the market for a slightly used race car? I've got several numbers you can call and get a pretty good deal. Only one problem, some reassembly required. But that's usually the case after a weekend at Bristol. Mark Martin and Todd Bodine, the big winners under the bright lights. We'll look back at the race action, plus have plenty more for you on the morning edition of Inside Winston Cup Racing for Sunday, August 29th. Mark Martin and the Jack Roush racing team have been red hot on the Winston Cup circuit. We'll talk with crew chief Steve Hmiel about the hard work and the winning philosophies of Winston Cup racing.
And you'll get a behind-the-scenes look at a safety crew seminar at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Teams from some of NASCAR's top tracks sharpen their skills on rescue procedures in the event of accidents.
Inside Winston Cup Racing is brought to you by Gold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. Goodyear, #1 in tires. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. The two-night races at Bristol are an extra jolt of excitement for race fans. The bright lights, the high banks, and some great racing. We got a double dose this past weekend. First, a look at Friday's Busch Series event that gave Todd Bodine a big win and Steve Grissom a bigger lead in the chase for the '93 championship. Today's Busch Series highlights brought to you by Texaco Haviland. Add more life to your car.
It was a typical night at Bristol. The first of 14 cautions came out just over 20 laps in when Randy LaJoie hit Rick Wilson. Ward Burton, Robert Presley, Jeff Burton, and Chuck Bound were all very strong early, but non-factors at the finish. The Burton brothers were caught up in this collision between Shauna Robinson and Jason Keller. David Green's Slim Jim Chevrolet was also involved, wounding his run at points leader Steve Grissom. Presley and Joe Nemechek battled up front and swapped the lead as the race zipped past the 1/3 mark. After Jim Bound went around on the backstretch, most of the top cars pitted for tires and fuel, but some did not. Tommy Houston inherited the lead in his Rose's Stores Ford, then dodged traffic and trouble to turn in one of his strongest performances in 1993. Bound's Nescafe car was strong, but Chuck contributed to caution number 5, a multi-car crash that collected Dale Jarrett and Tracy Leslie and crippled Bound's run for a win. Presley's promising run was ruined when he tapped Richard Lassiter and got caught up in that crash. As the race roared past halfway, Houston began to battle a brake problem, while Todd Bodine and Joe Nemechek were charging from second and third. When Ward Burton and Tracy Leslie brought out caution number 9 on lap 161, Houston pitted. Bodine became the race leader, chased by Nemechek. Bobby Dotter, Mike Wallace, Houston, and Ricky Craven all had good cars and strong runs, but the battle boiled down to Bodine and Nemechek. Even as the cautions kept coming, Bodine and Nemechek challenged the track and each other. Houston's hopes finally went away with his brakes. Tim Fedowa brought out the final caution with 20 to go. The green came out on lap 234, and Bodine held off Nemechek the final 16 laps to take his fiddle-faddle ride to the checkers. Last night, the Winston Cup stars thundered around Bristol's high banks, and in a scenario remarkably similar to Watkins Glen, Mark Martin won the pole, had problems during the race, but charged back to win his 3rd consecutive event. Randy Pemberton was there when Mark pulled into victory lane.
Well, Bill, it was definitely exciting for Mark Martin and the Valvoline Ford team as they picked up their 3rd straight Winston Cup victory. But actually, the excitement started on Saturday during qualifying for the Bud 500. Ernie Irvin crashed his Kodak Film Chevrolet car, had to go to a backup car. He, as well as some of the other top dogs, had to pit on the back stretch. Dale Earnhardt, as well as Dale Jarrett, Kenny Schrader, and Kyle Petty all pitted on the backstretch for the start of the Bud 500. Mark Martin and Rusty Wallace took turns leading the early going of the Bud 500 before this multi-car wreck brought out a caution and brought all the leaders to pit road. Loose lug nuts on the right rear of Mark Martin's Ford would bring him back. He would lose 2 laps. 11 yellows slowed the race, including this caution for Kyle Petty, who was running a strong second. Petty pushed his Pontiac into the wall, ending his chances for a second win this season. Rusty Wallace led 309 of the final 322 laps, but when it counted, it was Mark Martin. Mark, after making up his lost laps, drove under Rusty in turn 3 on lap 489. Martin had to negotiate heavy traffic over the final 10 laps as Rusty stalked him all the way to the finish, but it was the Valvoline Ford taking the checkers for the third straight time on the Winston Cup Tour.
Thanks, Randy. One other note this week, the Charlotte Motor Speedway announcing a $2 million improvement project that includes repaving the entire oval, a new enclosed garage area, and 4,000 more seats. Work begins in October. We'll have more on that story in the weeks ahead, and we'll go back to Ned in just a moment. But first, here's the entire finishing order from the Bud 500.
Genuine draft Rusty Wallace stock car. See it. Hear it. Feel it. Catch it, if you can.
I was right behind him when he started to spin. I know the feeling, know where to go, right?
Two champions sharing a winning formula. Haviland, Formula 3.
Very unpleasant on an oval, I'd think. Some people just can't get it right. Even at Indy? Oh, especially at Indy.
Complete professionals who rely on the same complete protection you can buy right off the shelf. Haviland Formula 3 motor oil from Texaco.
Perhaps I should follow you then. Not a bad idea, Nigel.
There's almost as many kinds of cars as kinds of people. And when those cars need batteries, those people come to Sears, America's #1 battery store. We carry a full line of batteries for every vehicle and every budget. From our Sears 45, guaranteed for nearly 4 years for $29.99, to the Die Hard with free emergency jump starts. One battery isn't going to work for everybody, so we make sure we have the one that works for you. Sears Tire and Auto Center. We're driven to satisfy.
Splitfire earned a United States patent. Splitfire doesn't look like any other spark plug. And the patented Splitfire doesn't work like any other spark plug.
5 extra horsepower by merely installing these plugs. Quicker in the quarter mile. A 4.8% gain in mileage.
There's nothing like a Splitfire. You'll get more power and more mileage, or your money back.
Get guaranteed Splitfire benefits for all gasoline engines at leading automotive stores nationwide.
Steve Hmiel is the crew chief on the Valvoline Fords, which are driven by Mark Martin in NASCAR Winston Cup competition. He came into NASCAR racing through Petty Enterprises. He worked for that team for a number of years and has worked for a couple of other teams, but now has built himself a solid reputation as one of the most knowledgeable people in all of auto racing. And we took an opportunity recently to sit down with Steve and capture some of that knowledge about what it takes to build a NASCAR Winston Cup team, a winning one.
It's amazing, I was talking to a few guys a little while ago, how much you guys are really working on your cars to get them better every week. I understand that you guys have, every week you go back to a racetrack, it's darn a brand new car.
Yeah, we're fortunate that we have a big facility here and a number of people. One of the things that the two-car team has brought to us is some efficiency in the fab shop. So we got a number of people that aren't standing around but are willing and able to do whatever it takes. So we've been building new cars for 4, 5, 6, 8 weeks now. Probably the last 6 or 7 races have been new cars, or old cars with new bodies or new suspension pieces or what have you. So we've been in real good shape there. We have a number of cars ready for the winter. I counted the other day, we have 25 cars. So, you know, as the year grinds on and we get to 6, 7, 8 in a row and the championship battle gets as tough as it's going to get, we think we'll stand in real good stead, and we have real good cars right now. We're not just playing out the year, man. We're going like mad trying to make what we can make of it.
Well, you know, originally when everybody talks about two-car teams, juniors and then Jacks and a couple of other people, some people said, well, it doesn't always work and all that. But I think it has come to be an advantage for you, I think, overall, hasn't it?
Well, yeah. You know, people look at things that don't work and say, well, that probably will never work.
Yeah.
Well, you could take a little bit of a different approach and try to make it work, or you could force people into believing it worked. But certainly you could take the first half of '93 and say, boy, Mark should have won a bunch of races, and if they didn't have so darn many cars and two teams and everybody wasn't so strung out, it would have gone a lot better, and they would have won 4 or 5 races in the first half. But that wasn't true. We were stubbing our toe, we were trying hard, and we're still trying hard. And the reason we can try so hard and react to things so quickly is because with two-car teams, there are efficiencies in terms of labor. You know, we have a bigger group of guys doing more things, and we can turn the ship around even quicker.
Let's go out there and take a look and see what people do in the shop when they're, you know, you're not at the racetrack. I mean, a lot goes on. People sometimes think that you just kind of load up and go to the racetrack, but you guys have a lot of work to do here.
Yeah, it's interesting what goes on. It's amazing how many times people ask you, what do you guys do all week? You know,
Can you put your finger on a philosophy of what makes a successful race team? You've been doing it so long. You've had a great career. I mean, you've won a championship a long time ago, nearly won with Mark here a few years back. This year, who knows where we'll stand if Earnhardt has some problems. But what is the philosophy that actually makes a car be able to run up front? I mean, there are so many good teams with good budgets and good drivers. What's the absolute key thing there?
Oh, I don't know. I guess you would just have to use Richard Childress as an example. And the things he's done is he's got a real good race car driver with real good race cars, with a bunch of personnel that haven't hopped in and out. You know, they all seem to know what the other hand is doing all the time. They can be relied on to do the right thing under a tough situation. They seem to stand the stress of championship battles really well, and typically they come out on top. So all of us, the other teams, if you will, other than Richard Childress Racing, it's our job to go find out what it takes. And it looks like team chemistry. It looks like keeping the guys together, keeping them happy. Typically what happens is you get a bunch fired up, and they go off and do some great things, and they get happy with themselves over it, and they'll either relax thinking that they've reached a plateau and that's all there is, or they'll start saying, well, I did it and you really didn't do it, and I need to get the benefit of doing it, so I'll go off and do some other great thing because now I'm ready to cash in my chips, if you will. So if you can keep your guys motivated and have good guys and work them hard, but be nice to them and give them the credit where credit's due, keep that team chemistry alive. I'm sure that's what Richard Childress has done, and that's what we all need to do, because Childress' team is a prototype.
You have to keep looking into the future. I know behind that door over there, you guys are working a little bit on 94 already.
Yeah, that's the old original building that we bought here in the summer of '88, and we've grown 6 times the size since then. But over there right now, you can hear them cutting and grinding and gouging. They're getting ready to go do a wind tunnel test on a '94 car, and from talking to Chevrolet teams, they're doing that too. You know, there's a new Monte Carlo coming, maybe in '95, maybe next year. I don't know enough about it, but everybody looks at the schedule and says, gee, you know, boy, what are you going to do in the winter now that you can't test in December? Well, you still have as many cars to build. There are some minor nose, hood, front fender changes on the '94 Thunderbird compared to the '93. There are all kinds of things we need to go test and go look at and retrofit. So there's a lot going on, and if you don't start by August 15th or September 1st, somewhere in there, you'll be behind. So we're digging for next year right now.
Now, I'm sure this Hardy's crew could use some of the knowledge that Steve Hmiel has as they make their start in NASCAR Winston Cup racing in 1994. We need to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have a story on the safety crews in Winston Cup racing, so you stay with us.
And our purpose today is to train the personnel on emergency crew workers and their way to handle safety and accidents at a track at a motorsports event.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
Inside the rechargeable mulchinator from Ryobi lies a beast.
It looks like Buckley's taking the lead on the first turn.
24 volts of cordless power to cut mulch and fertilize your lawn quietly. Without pit stops for gas, oil, or clippings. The battery-powered mulchinator from Ryobi. It could just be the mower of your dreams.
Hey, have you been waiting all summer for the perfect time to paint? Well, guess what? Time's up. Because right now, Sherwin-Williams is having their perfect price sale. Weather Perfect exterior flat is only $10.99, and Style Perfect interior flat is just $8.99. The perfect price sale ends October 2nd, so now's the time to stop procrastinating and start painting. Hey, buddy, you missed a spot.
Dead battery.
She says she left her lights on all day. Over.
10-4, I got it. Out.
When you buy a Die Hard, you get a lot more than the power of a great battery. You get the peace of mind that comes from Sears Emergency Service. If you ever need a jump start, we'll do it for free.
You're all set.
Anytime, anywhere. Die Hard. Only at Sears Tire and Auto Center. We're driven to satisfy.
You protect yourself inside your car. Protect yourself under the hood, too.
Walmart helps you take care of your car and your budget.
Haviland Formula 3 provides complete engine protection. Or try Haviland Synthetic Motor Oil for better protection for the long run. Either way, you add more life to your car.
And because we always sell for less, Walmart's better protection, too.
Like a seatbelt for your wallet. Walmart. Always the low price. Always.
Coming up Sunday morning on Race Day, we'll be back in Charlotte, North Carolina with all the latest news from the world of motorsports. We'll have results of the season finale for AMA's Road Racing Series. We'll recap the Winston Cup race from Bristol, Tennessee, and we'll have news from qualifying for the ASA race here on TNN. That's Sunday morning, so join us.
Race Day, 2 different editions, 11:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. Eastern, TNN Motorsports Sundays.
It takes a lot of people to put on a NASCAR Winston Cup race, and certainly among the most dedicated are the people who work on the safety crews. Many of these people are volunteers. We've been wanting to do a story on them for a long time, and recently they had a training session at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, which gave us an opportunity to bring you this story.
Last weekend, more than 70 medical and safety personnel from 7 NASCAR tracks spent 3 days learning, reviewing, and rehearsing the life-saving techniques employed each week during the racing season. The 3rd annual Accident Care Team training program took place at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It featured volunteer expert instructors from across the country, sharing vital information with safety crews from Pocono, Talladega, Atlanta, Charlotte, Dover, Rockingham, and Indianapolis. The weekend began with a series of lectures. Then Saturday morning moved into the critical, hands-on part of the program.
Well, we've learned this year that there's a lot more to dealing with rescue and firefighting and safety on the track than just going out there and putting out the fire. That the cars are very technical, that the rules that NASCAR operates on are important to how we operate, that the need to plan and prepare and constantly train to keep updated with what's happening in NASCAR is important.
The Saturday morning session involved visits to a series of workstations where safety procedures were explained, then put into practice. The program ranged from the proper use of life-saving power tools to the proper method of removing vehicles from the racetrack.
We call it the whole world's watching because everyone is watching on TV and the media and so forth, as well as your peers, and we just think it's important to be as well-trained and as well-organized and as competent as you can be.
It's very critical on how you pick the team and who can do what.
He's going to take his left foot out, put it on the ground. Now stop right there. If that ankle's broke, where's he going? You better be ready to get this guy right here, like this, because he don't know whether he's hurt or not. You got a chance to support his neck real quick till you get some people there. Then what you want to do is just lean back. Just lean back like you're hurt. Lay down. You're going to sit the guy down and try and get him off the track.
All right, now hold tight, everybody. You can see how much room you have, and you don't have any place to do anything. Right. Now you can see why we're coming back, making that roof cut on each side, tilting that out so you can come right straight out. Right. But this person is making a determination of what's going on in the rescue. Okay. This is the key person. Let's get somebody else real quick and do one more.
Once you get to the scene, we want to be efficient and effective. And again, work smart. Work together as a team, coordinate. Safety again, though, key thing. Once it's over, it's all clear. You want to get back safely. If you don't get back safely, you've created another incident.
We are very excited about the NASCAR coming to Indianapolis next year, and so our learning curve is very high right now. So this gives us an opportunity to come down, see what is going on, some of the different problems we're going to have to address, and also some of the issues, as well as meet the folks that we hope will come up and work with us.
Another part of the program focused on fighting the most dangerous enemy of any driver, fire. Mock disasters enabled crews to experience the intensity of racing's most critical moments.
We're also having the people use fire extinguishers. Even though people are trained on them, they don't get a chance to use them in a lot of real environments, particularly on a racetrack. So we actually will use fire extinguishers on a working fire. We'll let them realize what the limits of a fire extinguisher are, for example, that you can't put out a whole car fire with it sometime unless you know what you're doing.
You know, it's fun when we're out here playing, but you start to understand that it isn't, you know, it isn't as easy as it looks, and there's a hell of a lot more to this program than what meets the eye.
The driver is responsible. The driver of the vehicle is responsible for that vehicle, for everybody on the vehicle, and to make sure everybody's prepared on that vehicle.
All the time that I spend in my life at Pocono is on safety. So 3 days here is just a minimal amount of time. If we pick up one thing, we're happy.
Well, thank God for all those men and women who give of their time and efforts and talents to make things safer around the racetrack. We need to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have the mailbox, so don't you go away.
Remember those old dirt tracks, AJ? The dirt would just eat up the engines.
Two champions sharing a winning formula. Haviland Formula 3.
My favorite win was going to be in '69. I had to give it to you. You shouldn't have even made a half a lap.
Complete professionals who rely on the same complete protection you can buy right off the shelf. Haviland Formula 3 motor oil from Texaco.
Heck, I still feel if I can't win, I don't want nobody to win. I'll try to remember that, AJ. Do that.
If you're looking into faucets, Peerless means plenty. America's leading do-it-yourself faucet. In hundreds of styles and finishes. All made with solid brass valve construction. And all warranty for as long as you own your home. The best made, best back do-it-yourself faucets in America. That's what Peerless means.
There's almost as many kinds of cars as kinds of people. And when those cars need batteries, those people come to Sears, America's #1 battery store. We carry a full line of batteries for every vehicle and every budget. From our Sears 45, guaranteed for nearly 4 years for $29.99, to the Die Hard with free emergency jump starts. One battery isn't going to work for everybody, so we make sure we have the one that works for you. Sears Tire and Auto Center. We're driven to satisfy.
Just 10 years old? Look at all you've done.
You're the best thing that's ever happened to country music.
Happy 10th.
Next week here on Inside Winston Cup Racing, we'll have all the action from the Southern 500 in Darlington, South Carolina, as Dale Jarrett, Dale Earnhardt, and Ernie Irvan all shoot for a $100,000 Winston bonus.
Darlington has been a good track for Robert Presley. Now he continues his chase for the points championship as the series moves back to the Lady in Black. Michael Waltrip is the defending champ, and we'll have all the highlights of the Gatorade 200.
And we'll take a look at the hectic pace in the Winston Cup garage area. We'll spend a Saturday with Todd Parrott, a key member of Rusty Wallace's Miller Genuine Draft racing team.
Today's Mailbox is brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft.
And our question today is one of the most asked, comes from Kathy Smith from Springfield, Massachusetts, who writes, how are the pits assigned on pit row at each racetrack? Kathy, for the answer, we'll go to Paul Andrews, who is the crew chief on the Ford #7, which is driven this year by Jimmy Hensley.
Kathy, that's a good question. The first pick gets picked by the previous year's champion. He picks first, and he's always looking for the, probably for the best fit for him. Well, usually an opening, or sometimes on the short tracks, the very end pick, very end pit. And then from there on, it goes to for the order of qualifying. The pole winner picks next. And it goes on to like that.
If you have any race questions, write to us at Inside Winston Cup Racing, Box 240417, Charlotte 28224. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Genuine Draft jacket. You'll also receive a copy of NASCAR Video Magazine's Racing's Toughest Tracks and Turns, one of the latest volumes in the exciting home video series, bringing the NASCAR lifestyle roaring into your living room.
Well, our time's up for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. It's good to see Hardee's join the McDonald's team as well as Bojangles in racing. Boy, there'll be plenty of fried chicken, hamburgers, and you name it. Shouldn't go hungry. Well, we'll see you right back here next week on Inside Winston Cup Racing on TNN.
Inside Winston Cup Racing has been brought to you by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. Goodyear, #1 in tires. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. Ground transportation for the Inside Winston Cup Racing crew provided by Mark III Luxury Vans and Trucks, the official vans and trucks of NASCAR. Clothing for the Inside Winston Cup Racing crew provided by Simpson Race Products, where innovation never stops.
Race Day, next on TNN.